everyone. So I'm back with another anti-haul video, which I have not done in a really long time. But I felt like filming this video today because I have been testing quite a few samples. I've actually realized that I've been enjoying more of the fragrances that are in my collection, and there just haven't been a lot of fragrances that have been impressing me. But the ones I'm focusing on today are fragrances that I've tried for at least several months. Some of these are ones that I've had multiple decants for many years, and it isn't until now that I've reached a conclusion on whether or not I wanted to purchase them. I wanted to do this video more as a reminder for myself to be okay with the fact that I'm not gonna buy everything that is pushed towards me or that I even like a little bit. I think we kind of have to remind ourselves it's okay to not purchase something. And we're living in a time right now where there's this major FOMO. We're worrying about missing out on something if we don't own it. And I'm kind of tired of that whole culture. Now, there's no judgment against anyone who wants to purchase a fragrance, especially if you're a collector. That's definitely your business, and who am I to say that you shouldn't purchase something? The point I'm trying to make really is for myself and for anyone who may be on the fence on whether or not to buy something. I think it's okay to miss out on something, even if you like it a little bit, but you're on the fence about it. I definitely want to focus on purchasing fragrances that I really love and that I intend to keep in my collection for years, if not forever. So that's, my whole point of view. I shouldn't have to say this, but I hope everyone who watches this understands that people have different opinions on fragrances. I'm not going to apologize for sharing my opinions because that's how I feel. And I think we need to be okay with the fact that we could dislike something that our friends enjoy and vice versa. Also, it's not a matter of, or at least the fragrances I'm showing today, they're not a matter of me not understanding the fragrances or needing time to like them. I just don't like them, and I'm okay with that, and I hope you understand that. Let's start off with the house of Amouage. This is a house that I actually enjoyed when I was starting to get into finding more unique fragrances. I own Lyric, which I still love. That's one of my favorite fragrances of all time. There are a few that I don't own that I also enjoy, like Honor. I've noticed that the ones that I like tend to be from the earlier years of when Christopher Chung was still the director of that house. I'm not a fan of the direction that the house is going, mostly because the fragrances that they've been producing aren't really fitting my taste. And even when Christopher Chung was the director, I didn't really like a lot of the fragrances that they put out when he was still there, and it was towards the tail end of his time with that house. Like the Blossom Love or Tuberose Love type of fragrances, they weren't really my thing. But I've been testing out quite a few from them, and I'm gonna share with you the ones that I decided I will definitely not purchase. One might be a surprise, and it's Sunshine Woman. I've actually talked about it in a previous video, an old video from last year, and I enjoyed it for a couple years. I am on my third sample of it, actually, because I've been really debating whether or not I should purchase it. It is one of the fragrances that came out when Christopher Chung was still the director, and at the time when I was watching early reviews about it, I was really into it. I loved the gourmand-ish aspect to it. It does have osmanthus, and it reads more as an apricot type of fragrance. And something I still appreciate to this day is how complex the development of that fragrance is. It really changes from the time that you spray it to the time that it dries down, and then hours later, and it kind of gets richer as you wear it. I like that part. The thing that I have kind of gotten tired of, though, I think, is the way that the osmanthus smells. And it's maybe because I have gotten into other osmanthus fragrances that I really enjoy, and it's hard not to compare. And the way that it smells to me now is a little bit flat. The pastry accord that I used to really enjoy now smells quite stale to me, and I just don't enjoy wearing it. I don't think it's a bad fragrance at all, and I can definitely see why it appeals to a lot of people. And as I'd mentioned, it seems like a really good quality fragrance, but there's something that it does that just falls flat to me, and I don't enjoy it. So I'm fortunate that I don't like it anymore because it saves me a lot of money, but it's no longer a love for me, unfortunately. A newer fragrance from the same house is Crimson Rocks, and it came out at the same time as a few fragrances. I think it's part of the Renaissance line, and it was released under the direction of the new director. So Crimson Rocks is a strong fragrance. It's, to me, a honeyed rose that has a little bit of spices from cinnamon, and it kind of gets ambery as it dries down. Crimson Rocks didn't appeal to me because it was really, really sweet, especially when I applied it on my skin. On paper, it was already sweet, but the honey really got amplified when I applied it on my skin, and I gave it full wearings. I wanted to like it because it had that nice rose fragrance. It did smell a little reminiscent of Ambre Nuit, although when I had my husband compare the two on me, he actually said he liked Crimson Rocks better. But wearing it and smelling it on myself just wasn't the most pleasant experience because of how sweet that honey was. But if you're into sweet fragrances, you might enjoy testing that out. So I don't want you to, avoid testing it just because of what I say. The amount of ambroxan that's in the base of that also really bothered my nose. I noticed when I wore it kind of in the chest area, it actually didn't last as long, and I think it's, again, as I mentioned in my previous video, the ambroxan kind of fatigued my nose, and I had a hard time detecting anything from that fragrance later on. When I wore it farther away, like on my arm, it did last a lot longer, or I could detect it for a lot longer. But that ambroxan really took over a lot of the other notes that I was sniffing from the beginning. And I'm noticing from the newer releases that a way for them to kind of help with the performance of the fragrance is to add a lot of ambroxan to it. And it's unfortunate because I liked Amouage before because they did perform strongly, and it was because they had a lot of different ingredients, and they had these rich orchestral type of compositions that put a lot of different things all together. And now I feel like the way it smells, it's thinner, like it's not as symphonic in a way, but they kind of add something like ambroxan to kind of amplify everything, and I'm just not a fan of what they're doing. Another fragrance from the house that I just didn't enjoy, that I thought was okay, was Enclave. And I know this is a fairly popular one, but I'll first read what my husband said, because he actually tried it first before I did. So his impression was, it's thick, too much happening all at once, like watching cake overflow when you're baking it in the oven. It smells now like cleaning product. So I think after it dried down, it smelled like cleaning product to him. Then as time passed, he said, clearly it's not cheap, but it smells like it's got money and no opinions. I don't know if I agree with everything he said, but I thought it was funny that he had an opinion about it, and he thought it was okay. He wasn't a fan of it, but he didn't think it was terrible. Now, wearing it on myself and smelling on my husband, I mostly got like this peppery, kind of cinnamony type of opening. And I also got quite a lot of mint, but not mint leaf. It was like minty candies, and it was like a nebulous take on mint. And the parts that I did not like about it was the heart and the dry down, or the base notes. So when it got to the heart, it was reminding me of walking into the men's section in Sephora in their fragrance section. There was something about it that smelled too familiar to me. But then when it changed into the base notes, and what I got from the base was like this sour, leathery, almost oud but not quite oud type of dry down. And I was not a fan of that. It really stung my nose and I just didn't find it pleasant. It was okay. It wasn't like I wanted to scrub it off, but it wasn't the most pleasant experience for me. The next one might be a surprise to some of you because I have talked about how I enjoyed this fragrance a lot, and it's Ambre Nuit from Dior, and I really love that fragrance. Even last year, I think. I am on my second decant of it, and when I had my first decant, I really enjoyed it. I was really thinking about getting a bottle. The thing that stopped me from buying it was that they only had the bigger sizes in the stores that are in my area. And so I didn't want to spend that much money on a large bottle. But I think if I had access to a smaller bottle, I probably would have bought it. And I'm kind of glad that I didn't. It's not exciting me anymore. It's as if the magic is gone. It's kind of disappointing because I know how much I loved that fragrance before. And I know some of you are going to be like, well, maybe you have the newer formulation. I have a decant from 2015, so I know it's not a matter of it being reformulated. And I actually went into the Dior store and I smelled the newer bottle, and to me, my reaction was very similar. So I just think my tastes have changed over time. The way I see that fragrance now is kind of like, you know, someone that you find attractive on the outside. They're very good looking, and I just can't find anything deep to talk to them about. It's like I want it to do more and it just doesn't. It falls flat and I don't really enjoy wearing it anymore. So lucky for me, I get to save some money. Now let's move on to Xerjoff. I do like a few of their fragrances. I own Neo. I also like Fars a lot, and there are a few more that I do like, but for the most part, I'm not a fan of a lot of the fragrances that they put out, as I think they're really expensive. But Erba Pura is one I know for sure I'm not gonna buy. I realized from wearing that fragrance that I am not a fan of overly sweet, fruity, like tropical fruity type of fragrances, and that's basically what I get from it. I got like a mishmash of tropical fruits, like I think papaya and melons and things like that, and then it's kind of wrapped in this really sweet vanilla, and I almost wanted to scrub it off every time I wore it. I really wanted to give it a chance, and it was almost nauseating to me how sweet it was, and it might be because of how it performed on my skin, but I am not a fan of the way that one smells. Here's a popular one. I know for sure I am not going to purchase MFK's Grand Soir, and I know a lot of people love that fragrance, and I get it. Like, if you want an amber fragrance that is easy to wear, that you want for formal occasions especially, I think it's a great option. I think for me, I have smelled a lot of ambery fragrances, and I've realized that I think when it comes to that type of profile, I want something a little bit more complex. The way that fragrance smells to me is almost like just smelling the base notes of a lot of other ambery fragrances I've tried out. So because of that, I don't know if I want to pay the hefty price tag. It's really pretty. Like, I enjoyed wearing it, but I think I just want more out of fragrances that have notes like labdanum and benzoin. And I think it's possible to get more complexity out of that. To add on to the discussion around FOMO, I know for sure that there are going to be a lot of vintages I have no interest in hunting down. I think there are a lot of great options for fragrances that have been around for decades that you can still get today in stores. So, you know, I just wanted to say that. So for me personally, I know for sure I have bottles in my collection that are classics, but I know I'm not going to want to hunt down vintages. So one is Bulgari. I understand that it was way different before. I think the original formulation may have smelled a little bit more animalic. I definitely like the way that my current formulation smells. I enjoy it, and I don't want to mess with that. So yeah, I'm fine with not getting the vintage. The last two are two Chanels. One is actually three Chanels. Yeah, three. One is number 22. The others are Antaeus and Coco Chanel. I honestly think Chanel did a pretty good job with their current formulations. I'm sure a lot has changed for some of their fragrances, but I'm fine with how these three smell like to me. I'm sure others can speak on how they smell like today compared to then, but because I enjoy my bottles, I'm not gonna try to look for vintages of those. Let me know in the comments below, what are some fragrances you plan on not purchasing? Are there any that you've tested out and feel like they're not for you, or that you haven't been impressed by? Feel free to share them in the comments below. And I will see you guys next time. Bye.